Hello, hello. I'm Zachary Hines, and this is what you missed at the Straz. Hello, welcome. I'm Zachary Hines, and I am here with the mischievous LeeAnn Day Douglas.
Where'd you get that one from?
I feel like it is fitting for the subject matter.
Oh, okay. So I'm mischievous. Okay. Hello. How are you?
I am here. I'm in quarantine.
Yes, we are still in quarantine. That is true.
Yes, we are coming at you remote from our apartments.
Yeah.
I have become so acquainted with that pillow of yours.
Yeah, actually, this is my pink recliner that I bought at a thrift store um, ages ago. I got it for $40. I was really happy about that. So
It's now iconic.
it is iconic. It is now when I don't have a Zoom background on, it's my background, my pink recliner. So yeah, I'm here in my house in our guest room. I have a nice big window that I can look out of while I do my work from home and while we podcast.
Yeah, because for our listeners, there's either the pink recliner behind LeeAnn or she is breaking quarantine and going to Epcot.
That's right. Epcot was my last background. So,
That's why you're mischievous, because
oh,
you've
okay.
you've been out and about enjoying all these empty Disney parks.
Yes, yes, all on my own.
I'm
So,
recording you. I'm calling you out.
that would be awesome, actually.
I know, that'd be like your dream.
Yes, to be the only person at Epcot. Yes, I'll take it.
So, speaking of the happiest place on earth, we watched Macbeth.
Which was not the happiest place on earth.
Oh my goodness.
OMG, that's what I have to say about that. Okay, so first off, this was Macbeth starring Patrick Stewart and Kate Fleetwood.
And
Um,
first of all, Patrick Stewart can get it with a mustache.
I know. I was really impressed. I didn't know he could do that.
I
Yeah.
was getting major Zaddy vibes. And I'm not a big fan of a man with a mustache. It's a very particular look you
Yeah.
need to be able to
Mhm.
really rock a good mustache.
Yeah.
Damn, he does though. Ooh, I was like, Macbeth, you can.
I was like, "Wow, just the mustache makes you look Scottish. That's amazing."
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I even paid attention to anything going on between just him covered in blood with the mustache and like the slightly unbuttoned shirt. Ooh,
Okay, so we watched Macbeth. I was surprised because it was a movie, not a play, and I thought it was going to be the play.
well, and it was kind of like in the middle. It was a movie, but it wasn't a full movie. It was staged like kind of a middle hybrid of a movie and a play.
Yeah, I'll go for hybrid. It was a hybrid. So yeah, so I was surprised because there were some scenes in there that I was like, "Ooh, this is more like a movie than a play," but that's okay. It took me about 7 minutes to adjust. I think that's when I looked at the timer on my TV and went, "How long have I been watching this?" And it was 7 minutes, and that's how long it took me to get adjusted to the filming and the language. So I had forgotten that it was Shakespeare because I don't know why I forgot it was Shakespeare, but I had forgotten. And so they started talking and it was Shakespearean. I was like, wait, is this in another language? What's going on? And I was like, oh crap, my subtitles aren't on. So let me stop it. And so I stopped it and it was around the 7 minute mark. And I stopped it and I put the subtitles on and then I was good. And I was like, okay, wait, it isn't another language. It's in Shakespearean language, but that's okay. I can adjust to this. It's going to be fine. And I did. It didn't take long to adjust to it at all.
That's a great idea. That's a great kind of hack for people who perhaps are new to Shakespeare or maybe a little intimidated by the language, that you can watch it. They have not just Macbeth, but tons of Shakespearean options all on these different streaming apps, including Broadway HD, and you can have the luxury when you're watching it at home to put on the subtitles to get more acquainted with the language.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny because I was an English major. So I studied Shakespeare in college. And I had such a hard time with Shakespeare. I had a really good Shakespeare teacher. And so he was able to explain a lot of it to me, or to us, the entire class, because all of us had a hard time with it. And I think, I mean, Shakespeare was not meant to be read. It was just not meant to be read. And I have only ever read Shakespeare, I had never seen it done. And so you have to see it staged, whether it's a play, whether it's a film, you have to see it staged to get the meaning. And I was like, why did I find this so difficult? This is very easy to understand watching the film. I was like, oh, why did I have such a hard time with this? It's just because you cannot get context by reading it.
Yeah, there's so much physicality that you miss, and you really do your ears just adapt when you're immersed into it, to understand what's going on. You don't even realize that they're speaking in an older form of English
Mm-hmm.
than we're used to hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe you've never seen a Shakespearean play.
I meant to many, many times and it just never happened. But I'm sitting there watching this play and I'm thinking, we should all just speak in meter and rhyme all the time.
I love the iambic pentameter.
I was like,
I feel like that's actually how I talk. That's why I have those pauses. It's like the pause where you don't take a breath. It's like the pause. You're not finished with the sentence, but there's so much that's like red meat for actors to have
yeah.
that. That's and there's actually fierce debate between American and British styles of Shakespearean acting and how they interpret the language. So that's
Mm.
always really interesting to see too when you see an American actor versus a British actor performing Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I felt like I understood what certain actors were saying easier than other actors in this staging of Macbeth. Um, and maybe it was a difference between an American actor and a British actor saying
Yeah,
it.
I didn't check to see the nationalities. I would assume most of them would be British because I know that it was originally filmed for the BBC and it was directed by actually one of my favorite directors, Rupert Gould, who was the artistic director of the Royal Court Theatre, which is one of my favorite theaters in the world. Um, but it's in London, and he did a production basically with this whole aesthetic, and it's loosely, subtly based on 1960s Romania, and a, a I can't remember his name. I don't even want to pronounce it. It'd be too embarrassing to even try. I had Google try to say it like 5 different times to prep for this, and, yeah, I still couldn't get it. But, there's a historical figure who, has a similar path to power that, Macbeth has.
So my husband was asking me, he's like, remind me of what Macbeth was about because I stopped watching it right in the middle because I had something else I had to do. And so, and I hadn't decided when I first started watching it. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then I really got into it, and then I really, really loved it. And so, I walk out into the dining room, and I said, Lady Macbeth is freaking crazy. I mean, she's just insane. And she's insane from the get go. She's not only insane at the end, she's insane at the beginning. And so, what it's basically about is Macbeth has been at war. He comes back from war. The king, like, gives him a medal and gives him a title, but Macbeth basically wanted more, and he gave the, what is it? Was it his cousin that he gave the succession to the throne? or something like that. I had a hard time following that little bit because they were throwing titles around. And so he invites the king and the cousins over to his place, and basically he and Lady Macbeth like kill the king, and he becomes king. Macbeth becomes king, and he's a tyrant. And so all of these other he's killing all these other people. Everybody who is against him, he's basically having killed. Um,
Well, because so setting all of this up is while he's out at war with Banquo, he they stumble upon three lovely witches.
oh, the witches.
The
Yes.
witches, and in this
Sorry.
production, they are kind of creepy nurses.
Creepy nurses, which was really creepy.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, so and they're called the Weird Sisters.
Mhm. And they predict that they give Macbeth the prophecies that he's going to have 2 new titles and eventually the third will be king. And Banquo will be neither as successful but also more successful and will not live as long but will live longer than Macbeth. So kind of like speaking in riddles.
Mhm.
And so this kind of, they laugh it off and then once Macbeth gets that first title, suddenly he gets that in his head like, "Oh, they were actually perhaps right. Maybe I will be king."
Right.
And then that's when Lady Macbeth she gives him the not so subtle push to actually do it and kill the king. She questions his manhood.
Right.
The best way to convince any man to do
Do
anything.
anything. True story.
So, and then my favorite is when he does it. First of all, it's hilarious.
Okay, I'm so glad you just said that it was hilarious because I actually laughed. So, I was thinking, "What kind of sick sense of humor do I have that I laughed at that?" And I'll explain the laughter. Go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So there were many things, but what had me laughing was he murders the king and he has one tiny little speck of blood on his pristine white shirt.
Okay, that made me laugh. That was totally it. I was like, he just killed these guys with knives and he has one little speck of blood. Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt you because the thing that cracked me up, and I bet it's the same thing that cracked you up, is she's basically like, why do you have the knives? You were supposed to leave the knives with the bodies. Why are you so stupid? I'm just gonna have to go finish this for you. And she walks down the hall and she comes back and she is covered, completely covered, like head to toe in blood. So they're standing next to each other and she's just covered. He's got this one little speck on his white
Exactly.
shirt. And I started laughing out loud because I thought that was hilarious.
I know. I was like, I guess Macbeth just is a little more careful.
I guess she's a little more enthusiastic with her homicidal
Yeah, I loved her
tendencies.
walk back too with the 2 dagger it was very not subtle at all, just 2 daggers up in the air, stomping back to the scene of the crime
Yeah,
to plant the
to,
daggers.
to plant the daggers. Yeah.
But
So,
yes, I love I her character is so interesting because I feel like so much of it is based on she seems to be really the most power hungry of
mhm,
all of them, but she's a woman, so she can't
right.
do it herself. She's reliant on this lug of a man to do her bidding, and so she has to manipulate him in any way she can so she can gain power.
That's right.
Um, and she has a very interesting journey because while she's crazy in the beginning, she's very passionate and driven and is power hungry. They're both driven mad in different ways. She's not really showing that she's tortured by all of this. He's getting these visions of ghosts coming back and haunting him, all these people that he's killed.
Yeah, he's hallucinating. I mean, he is straight up hallucinating.
Yes, like yelling at empty chairs at banquets, and she has to cover up for him. But at the end, it gets to her too, where she eventually does.
Well, she loses it. Yeah, she starts sleepwalking. She's obsessively washing her hands. She's does her out damn spot.
She would do great in COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely.
She is washing her
She's
hands.
washing her hands. She does end up killing herself at the end. Which I wish they had shown it. They didn't show the suicide.
Well, I think that's there's a lot of discussion about why they do not show her, and it's just articulated to him that she killed herself. And I think it kind of, to me, I liked it because it just shows how meaningless all of this is, that it just ends in a blip. Like, it's not that, everything is falling apart in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, everything did fall apart. I mean, and it seemed to fall apart rapidly. Um, the true heir to the throne, gathered 10,000 troops, English troops, to come and war with Macbeth and take back the crown. And
Because Macbeth, because he was seeking revenge, because Macbeth is freaking out. He's having visions of, he's worried Banquo heard the prophecy too, and Banquo had this other riddle that he's still thinking of,
right,
that that Banquo's heirs will go on to be king. So Macbeth is king. So how would Banquo's heirs become king?
right.
So he kills Banquo and tries to kill his son Fleance, who flees. But then he goes back to the witches. The weird sisters
Yes.
come back, and he wants more intel. He wants more info. He wants the tea. He's like, ladies, tell me everything there is to know. Get to the point. And they give him even more riddles, that no man born of woman will usurp him, that uh, he sees a, a baby, um, and then I can't remember the other. Was it something with Banquo?
Well, he saw Fleance come through the door, and then it looked like 1,000 Fleances kept coming through the door. And that was that each of them would be king in turn, and not Macbeth. And that there was nothing he could basically do about it. And in the middle of all this, he had Macduff. Macduff, his wife, Lady Macduff, had her murdered, all of Macduff's children murdered. And so Macduff has vengeance on his mind as well.
Because he was
And
away.
he was away. He had gone away. And so he ended up in England talking to, I don't even know the guy's name that became king. What was his name? Do you know the character? Nope, you don't know either. So they kind of all rallied together, and that's the at the end, the very end, Macduff was like, okay, there's a couple of funny things that I laughed at. Number one, Macbeth is like on the run in his castle or whatever you call it. It was a very gritty industrial looking thing. And he's running and he ducks into this little alcove, and this soldier comes through, and he's like, what is your name? And he like won't tell him his name, and he finally tells him, I'm Macbeth. And the soldier's like brandishing this knife, and Macbeth pulls out a gun and shoots him, and he falls down dead. And I started laughing so hard because what's going through my head is, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. It's just like, okay, so that didn't work out. So then the same thing happens when Macduff corners him in his, what would you call that? Was that his ballroom or his dining room? Or
Sure.
yeah, there you go, in his ballroom. And so he shoots Macduff, and Macduff has a knife, and I'm like, how do you guys not know that you need to bring a gun to a gunfight? But Macduff didn't die right away. So Macduff is like crawling on the table to Macbeth, and he ends up telling him that he was not born of woman. I guess maybe his mom had a C-section.
C-section, yes. The C-section twist, all the way back in Shakespearean times.
Yeah, so and then he ends up cutting off Macbeth's head.
Beheading him.
He
So yeah.
beheads him, presents the head to the new king, and that's how it ends. And there have been very few times in my life where I have seen a movie and wanted to applaud at the end. And I had to contain myself because I wanted to give that movie a standing ovation sitting here in my living room. It was phenomenal. I'm gonna have to watch it again. It was
Again,
it was so so good. Um when I studied Shakespeare, one of the things that my teacher said was that Shakespeare was really big into the divine rights of kings. And so, in a lot of his plays, you'll see it in all of the king plays. Um, Usually, the theme is a king is usurped, is killed, um, a new king rises. They did not rise by the usual means because kings should be chosen by God, not by man. So when a king rises by murder or any other thing that he does to like take power and become king, he's not going to stay king because something's going to happen to put the correct king back in place and reestablish the royal order. And so that happens in a lot of Shakespeare's plays. And the reason I'm saying this, because that's probably boring to a lot of people, is this happens in Disney's The Lion King. So you've got Mustafa, Scar kills him. Simba's supposed to be king, but he's not. He's run off. The kingdom falls apart. There's drought, there's no food, everything is awful. The lionesses are starving. And until Simba comes back and kills Scar and takes back his place there where he belongs as king, the divine right of kings that Shakespeare does, and then everything magically becomes better again when Simba takes his place as king. And that happens in a lot of Shakespeare plays.
yeah. And Lion King is actually loosely based off of Hamlet.
There you go. So, there you go.
So you were onto something there.
I was onto something. I had no idea that that was based off Hamlet. So
I think
yeah.
it's Hamlet. It is a Shakespeare play.
Yeah, yeah. So it was fantastic. I loved everything about Macbeth. I'm so glad that we watched it. Um, I highly recommend it to anyone who has access to it, to put it on and put on the subtitles and enjoy yourself a little Shakespeare.
Yes, and then dive into more and more Shakespeare. I really do love Shakespeare, and I think Shakespeare is something like Brussels sprouts, where if it's not cooked and prepared properly, it's gonna be disgusting. So a lot of people think they don't like Brussels sprouts, but then they have them but when they're cooked properly, you're like, "Oh my goodness, I thought I hated Brussels sprouts, but I love them." And it's the same thing with Shakespeare. You can and probably the majority, unfortunately, of Shakespeare productions, because there's just a lot of them, um, are not great. So, uh, so a lot of people have been exposed to bad Shakespeare, or they just haven't seen it. They just read it and don't understand it because they're missing a big piece of the puzzle. So definitely see this because this is a really well done example of what Shakespeare can be. So I think this is a great, especially for one of the tragedies. It's full of twists and turns. And the other thing I love about Shakespeare is a lot of what I like about opera, in that there are so many different interpretations now because it's produced so much that like this movie is they have it's set in 1960s Romania, and so the costumes and the aesthetics and the scenery are all very modernized and different than kind of a classic traditional production.
Mhm.
So you'll see that a lot with Shakespeare. Actually, Job Site Theater does a really good job of that, of kind of updating and twisting the source material into something new. So Shakespeare really lends to a new creative vision. So directors and theater companies can have a lot of fun in presenting a familiar work in a new way. So, yes, I co-sign the going out, watching this movie, and just seeing more Shakespeare.
So, one final question.
Mhm.
What was the significance of the elevator? There was this elevator that kept showing this elevator going down, going up, going down, going up, going down. And I have an idea of what I think the significance is, but I wanted to hear your idea first.
I don't know. I mean, it could be I would just be guessing, just kind of I mean, I kind of feel like it could be like a heaven and hell kind of thing.
Yeah, see, I thought maybe it was a descent into hell because at the very end they showed Macbeth and Lady Macbeth holding hands going down in the elevator, and they were both dead and they belonged in hell. So um,
Yeah.
I thought maybe that was it because I need to rewatch it and see every time he goes down in the elevator, is he talking to the weird sisters? When he descends to hell, talks to the weird sisters, ascends, and then does all kind of mischief. I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch it again. So yeah.
I mean, it's definitely there's a lot of Shakespeare madness and descents into madness. King Lear is very famous for kind of the mad king, like he's going insane. Um, and this is kind of being mad with power and kind of how that can drive you insane and cloud your judgment. So it definitely is it's always a relevant tale, unfortunately.
Okay, so what are we gonna watch next time? Because we had discussed watching Into the Woods.
Into the Woods.
Do we know if it's available
It's on
anywhere?
Disney Plus.
All right, we'll watch Into the Woods.
I think you'll like it.
Okay, cool. Cool.
So, yes, viewers, if you have Disney Plus, watch Into the Woods along with us and we'll talk about it next week. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll see you soon.